Okay, so in the world of language teaching, there's this one question that just sparks endless debate. When a student is learning English, is using their native language a sin or is it a secret weapon? Let's dive in. So let's just get right to the heart of it. Is using L1, that's the learner's first language, a big mistake in the English classroom? This question has been at the center of a pretty fierce debate among educators for decades, and honestly, the stakes feel really high. So, first things first, let's unpack this conflict. Why has this debate gone on for so long? A big part of it comes down to some very real, very understandable fears that teachers have about letting any language besides English into their classroom. So, on one side, you've got this fear, the idea that using a student's native language is just an obstacle, something that actually gets in the way of them becoming truly fluent in English. The thinking here is that total immersion is the only path. But on the other side, there's this growing argument that L1, when you use it correctly, isn't an impediment at all. In fact, it can be an incredibly helpful resource. And this right here leads us to a really fundamental shift in perspective. What if we just stopped seeing L1 as a problem we have to eliminate and instead started seeing it as a solution we can actually use to our advantage? This quote just perfectly captures that new mindset. The idea isn't to replace English with the native language, not at all. It's about seeing the native language as just one of many valuable tools for building a bridge to understanding English better. So, what do we actually mean when we say resource? Well, in this context, it's pretty simple. It's something that provides support and brings a benefit. We're basically reframing L1 from this hindrance that holds students back to a tool that can help push them forward. And hey, just so we're all on the same page, L1 is simply the learner's first language, their native tongue. Simple as that. Okay, so this all sounds good in theory, right? But how does it actually work in a real classroom? Well, if L1 is a tool, then the teacher is the skilled craftsperson. It all comes down to knowing exactly when and how to use it as part of a much bigger strategic toolkit. So what do these strategic moments look like? Well, think about clarifying complicated instructions, right? So everyone can just get started on the right foot. Or quickly explaining a really tricky vocabulary word in L1 to keep the lesson's momentum going. You can even use it to compare grammar structures to forge deeper connections, or honestly, just to break up the routine and re-engage some tired minds. And the benefits here are super direct and practical. Using L1 for procedures, that prevents confusion from day one. A quick switch in language can be a welcome diversion that totally resets the focus in the room. Comparing grammar helps cement the learning, and using L1 for vocabulary, well, it's just one more effective tool to make a new word really stick. But this goes way beyond just the technical stuff, like grammar and vocab. There's a really powerful psychological side to this. Using L1 strategically can have a massive positive impact on a student's confidence, their morale, and their willingness to even participate. I mean, just imagine being that student who's struggling, who's maybe a little afraid to speak up. For them, hearing a familiar word or phrase can be incredibly reassuring. It's like a lifeline that tells them, hey, it's okay, you're supported, and you can do this. And it doesn't have to be some big, complicated thing. Imagine a student finally nails a difficult pronunciation. Just a quick, celebratory phrase in their own language can be a huge pat on the back. It does wonders for their morale because it acknowledges their effort in a way that feels really personal and deeply encouraging. What's really fascinating is that this whole approach to L1 is actually part of a much bigger idea about the role of the teacher. It signals a move away from that old model of the teacher as the center of the universe and towards a more modern student-centric classroom. Okay, now, this quote is pretty dramatic, I know, but it perfectly illustrates that traditional mindset of the teacher as an absolute monarch, the one and only source of knowledge. In that kind of model, sharing power, or even just the linguistic space in the room, can feel like a direct threat to their authority. And here's that contrast, laid out nice and clear. The monarch teacher monopolizes all the talk, and the students are basically passive subjects. But the facilitator teacher, that's the goal. They encourage participation, they share power, and they see their students as active learners. Using L1 strategically, that's a tool of the facilitator, not the monarch. So, what's the real secret to making all of this work? It's not about opening the floodgates and using L1 all the time. Nope. The key is mastering the art of judicious use. Judiciously. It's a great word, right? But what does it actually mean here? It means using L1 with good judgment. with care. It's thoughtful, it's strategic, and it is absolutely not about using it randomly or way too much. It's a professional skill. The student's native language really is, as the source puts it, an amazing yet much maligned facility. Its power depends entirely on the teacher's skill, on knowing exactly when and exactly how to use it for the biggest impact. And at the end of the day, why does any of this matter? Because the ultimate goal isn't just to stick to some rigid English-only rule. The aim is to achieve the lesson's objectives, and this is the most important part, to make learning more accessible and more effective for every single student in that room. So really, the question isn't if we should use L1 anymore, it's how. So think about it. If you were to embrace this strategy, what's the first small strategic step you might take?